Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Leader Ort. Thank you, Leader Barkley. There's really no excuse for delaying this critical relief for tenants and landlords who are experiencing real problems in our state. You know, if this was another year, this lack of action, this lack of common sense, it might surprise us. But this year, in my opinion, it's sadly just one more example of failed leadership from the governor and also from our majority members in the Senate. You probably remember that last spring, the state fumbled on the rollout of the CARES Act funding for tenants and landlords. Of the $100 million that we received from the federal government, just $40 million went out the door. Just $40 million went out and got into the hands of people who desperately need it. That left $60 million unspent. I remember being on the Senate floor and asking questions about what was holding up this rollout of the $60 million. Why wasn't it getting into the hands of the tenants and the landlords who desperately needed it? And the answer, it was not really an answer. Basically what I was told is that that $60 million wasn't nearly enough to cover the needs of all of the New Yorkers. So I think to myself, okay, $60 million wasn't nearly enough, but I know in my district and many of my colleagues' districts, that $60 million would have gone a long way. At that time, we had more than 100,000 people who were seeking assistance, and we got help only into the hands of 15,000. Again, that $60 million would have gone a long way to growing that number. But now, today, we're talking about much more funding. We're talking about an additional $1.3 billion in federal funds. The governor and the majority have had plenty of time to put a plan in place to move this money out in a more efficient manner than that spring CARES funding. But have they? I haven't seen any signs of it. I've seen signs of more politics being played, right? In the Senate, we've passed and debated a bill both in committee and we've questioned on the floor. But if you ask me, these actions are actually unnecessary. They're only harming the people who are so scared to death of being kicked out of their housing. We need to get this money into the hands of the families and the individuals who are hanging on by a thread. Yesterday, I received an email from the president of a small business association, a landlords association. I think her comment summed it up pretty well, and I want to share that with you. And I quote, "The majority party is failing all New Yorkers by holding this money hostage to the special budgetary process." I agree. This inaction is hurting citizens of this state who need relief, just like it's hurting our bar and restaurants owners, just like it's hurting our kids who want to get back to school full time, and how it's hurting so many people across the state. Now, as someone who represents a fairly large rural district, I want to make this important point. When we're talking about landlords, the landlords who really need our help, they're small business owners, as Leader Ort said. They're small landlords. Individuals and business owners in our local communities, widows who depend on rent payments for their retirement. And when we talk about tenants, these are also real people in our communities. Single moms, parents, senior citizens. The governor needs to take real action right now, appropriate action, to streamline the process for both the tenants and the landlords and to get this funding out the door. September 30th, the deadline to distribute these funds, it's looming. It's much closer than we think. It would be a shame. It would be a crime to have to send that $1.3 billion back to Washington, D.C. instead of putting it in the hands of New Yorkers who need it. But the choice is clear. Use the money or lose it. We need to help tenants and landlords who need the help or cause further delay to our economic recovery. There are no more excuses. There should be no more delays. We need to release the funds and get it done today.